behalf of Equestrian Canada, we welcome everyone to the webinar this evening. We hope you find this webinar both entertaining and informative. For those not familiar with the Zoom features, we ask that you mute your line to avoid any background interference. If you wish to submit a question during the webinar, please do so using the Q&A feature, which you can find in the toolbar at the bottom of your screen. We do ask that you avoid using the chat, as this can cause distractions to our presenters. As we have a lot of people joining us this evening, we ask for your patience should we experience any technical difficulties. Without further ado, I turn it over to Ron King, our moderator for this session, for our introductions.
Ron, mute.
Hi, sorry about that. We're just having a few technical difficulties here as well. So welcome Canadian equestrians to our webinar, Make It 10. I'm Ron King, an Equestrian Canada certified coach and judge based here in our nation's capital, and I will be your moderator. I would like to welcome Brittany, Lindsay, and Megan, and thank them for joining us for the presentation. I would also like to thank our audience for joining us. I know there's been a few difficulties, but it's great to have you on board. And also thank Equestrian Canada for offering this educational session. So to start out with, I'd just like to do a few intros. So introducing Brittany. Over the past several years, Brittany Fraser-Beaulieu has been making a name for herself in the dressage world. Under the watchful eye of Canadian four-time Olympian Ashley Holzer, Brittany has fully committed herself to becoming one of the best the sport has to offer. Her successes have not gone unnoticed, as she has amassed an impressive number of outstanding results. She represented Canada at the 2015 Pan American Games, team silver medalist, and the 2018 World Equestrian Games. Brittany is now focused on being selected to represent Canada at the Tokyo Olympic Games in 2021. Next, we have Lindsay. Lindsay Kellick made her Canadian dressage team debut at the age of 22, representing the Maple Leaf in the 2013 CDIO 3-star FEI Nations Cup in Wellington, Florida, riding Hunter Douglas Rhapsody. Partnered with Royal Prince, Kellick earned a string of top 3 finishes at prestigious competitions, including win at the 2016 CDI 1-star in Tryon, North Carolina, the 2016 CDI 3-star in Saugerties, New York, and the 2017 CDI 1-star at the Adequan Global Dressage Festival in Wellington, Florida. Kellick returned to the Nations Cup ring in 2019 with Florentina, where Team Canada's silver medal finish was greatly bolstered by the pair's consistency. Kellick and Florentina scored above 70% on every single test performed at the FEI level, which led to their selection to represent Canada at the 2019 Pan American Games. Team gold medalist. Lindsay, with current Grand Prix Mount Sebastian, are now focused on the Tokyo Olympic Games and being selected to represent Canada on the world stage. And Megan Lane discovered dressage at the age of 8 and never looked back. Her training reached a whole new level when she spent time at the Hannoverische Reit- und Fahrschule Riding Academy in Verden, Germany. Soon after, she represented Canada for the first time at the 2008 FEI North American Junior and Young Rider Championships in Parker, Colorado. She returned to NAJYRC 4 more times, earning upwards of 6 individual medals with Caravella, who she personally trained up to the Grand Prix level after finding her at a Hunter Jumper sales barn. Lane represented Canada as a senior team member for the first time in 2014 at the FEI World Equestrian Games in Normandy, France. Once again partnered with Caravella, she helped the Canadian dressage team earn a 9th place finish. Lane and Caravella started the 2015 season strong, helping Canada earn the team silver medal at the CDIO Three-Star Nations Cup in Wellington, Florida. Later in the spring, they picked up a multitude of wins on home soil during the final Pan Am qualifying competitions. At the 2015 Pan Am Games in Toronto, Lane and Caravella were members of the silver medal winning Canadian dressage team, which broke the Canadian record for the highest team average score achieved at a major games. Lane made her Olympic debut at Rio in 2016 aboard Caravella. She also represented Canada at the 2018 World Equestrian Games with Zodiac MW. Lane is now also focused on representing Canada at the Tokyo Olympic Games. So we are very privileged to have these three ladies here on the way, hopefully, to the Olympic Games next year. So we have a few questions that people have already emailed in. And so I think we should get started with some of those as maybe time goes by very quickly. The first one was to provide some background on everyone's personal journey, both with horses and with the sport. So I'm not sure who would like to start with that.
I can start.
Okay.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining us tonight. I'm Brittany Fraser-Beaulieu. I'm originally from New Glasgow, Nova Scotia, now living in Montreal. I have been competing all in for the last 10 years. We've had a very long partnership together, and I've enjoyed every moment of it. It's been a very, there's been lots of ups and downs in our along our way, but he's taken me to the top of the sport, and I'm very, very happy for that. I also had a lot of young horses that I brought up through the levels, but All In has been really my main partner. We have, when I was a junior and young rider, Ruth Kosh and Albrecht Heidemann took me up the levels. I was very privileged to be in their program. They brought a lot of amazing riders up the ranks. And for the last 8 years, I've now been training with Ashley Holzer, who has completely changed my career and has, again, brought me to the top of the sport. And I'm so thankful for that.
Great. Who would like to go next?
Sure, I'll go. Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for being here. So I'm just going to start by talking about how I started. So I started riding probably when I was 6. My mom is a dressage rider, so that's how I got into the sport. I started riding at Sunnybrook Stables in Toronto, and I really only started by riding school horses, doing a mix of everything, dressage, jumping. And then my parents decided to buy my dad bought my mom and I a horse, I think when I was 13. So we shared that horse together at Sunnybrook. And my mom taught me a little bit. I learned a lot from her. And from there, we decided that dressage was definitely becoming a passion of mine, and that I needed to move on to the next best thing, which was training with Jackie Brooks. So I moved to Newmarket, Ontario, and I went and trained with Jackie at RCRA. Then I had my junior horse milestone there with Jackie. And I stayed with Jack until I was 18. I groomed for Jackie at the 2008 Olympic Games. That was an amazing experience. And then by the time I was 18, I had kind of outgrown Milestone. He was small and I was getting quite tall. And at that point, my parents said, okay, well, now you have to decide, are you going to do this professionally? Are you going to go back and pursue school? And I thought, no, I love dressage. I want to keep going with this. So then they left it up to me as to what the next step was going to be. And that was not going to be buying me another horse. So I then decided to go and work for Ashley Holzer as a working student for a year. And that turned into 7 years. I stayed at Ashley's. I turned into her manager. I was her working student, a rider, a little bit of everything. And she has really helped me so much in my career, got me to really where I am today. I'm so thankful to her for that. And that's really how I started my professional career, was out of Ashley's barn. So yeah.
All right. Can everyone hear me?
Yep.
I think we can.
Yeah, okay, good. Good evening, everybody. Thanks for having me on. Yeah, a little bit about my history with horses. I knew from a very young age that horses would be my life. I grew up going to the farm since I was a baby with my mom. My mom was the passionate horse person in my family, so I got to spend almost every day with horses. And growing up, I didn't know exactly how I was going to make it my life. I just knew that that's what I wanted to do. So I was lucky to, have experience in many disciplines. I did the 100 jumpers growing up, and did a little bit of eventing. So I got a taste for dressage. And I had a family friend who was a vet who noticed my talent when I was a kid. Yeah, because I was riding my mom's big dressage horse at the time. And he decided that he wanted to kind of go into business, having me train and sell ponies with him. So that's what my mom and I did. So I was able to get quite a bit of experience with sort of cast off ponies, showing them in, the jumpers and eventing and a little bit dressage. And from then I came across my first junior pony. Junior horse, actually, sorry, that was Delaney. And we did juniors with him, and he did really well. That was the junior championships in Colorado in 2008. And then from then, basically, he gave me so much experience and knowledge, and he was really amazing for developing, I guess, my technique for dressage. And then I came across Caravella, who I'm sure you all know. And it basically transpired to all the amazing experiences that I had from Pan Am's to the Olympics.
Oh, so all three of you have had the horse addiction for a long time. I would think. So the next question comes from Ava. What advice do you have for young riders, perhaps someone just getting involved in the sport? Who would like to start?
I'll start. I think it's, if you're just getting into dressage, I think it's really important that, you find somebody, a dressage rider, someone in your local town who has experience doing dressage, and you go and align yourself with somebody like that. You go watch them ride, watch them teach. If you don't have access to a horse, just really immerse yourself in a program, or just be around it, whether it is working in the barn or feeding the horses, doing the stalls, sitting in the arena, watching somebody ride. I just think that's so important part of the learning process, as well as, going online, watching videos of top riders, getting experience from that. I mean, I know growing up, I was just obsessed with dressage. I watched everything. I was on all of the dressage websites. I watched all of my favorite riders, Isabel, Charlotte, and I think, there's lots to be said for learning that way.
Nice. Does anyone else have more input?
Yeah, I can say something.
Yeah.
I think there's, you know, there is a lot of talent and a lot of people who are passionate about horses, but I would say a major attribute to being a successful competitor is hard work. And like what Lindsay was saying, a lot of success and knowledge comes from not only the time in the saddle, but you know, knowledge being out of the saddle as well. And yeah, true dedication and a lot of hard work. Yeah, which is relevant, you know, to any sport and every aspect of life.
Yeah, hard work goes a long way.
I also have something to say too along those lines. What Megan and Lindsay said is totally 100% right. Another thing that sometimes I think that the juniors and young riders forget about is, you know, when they watch all the professionals go, they see everybody shine in the ring. And, you know, when you go out there to compete in the ring, you want it to be the best. But what happens, you know, to get there is a huge long road with a ton of ups and downs. Lots of tears, lots of sweat. And, you know, when it does get a little bit tough, which it does for all of us, even the best in the world, it's tough to keep pushing through that, and it will get better. And a lot of the kids, I really want to push that to say, you know, that there is light at the end of the tunnel, even when you think that there's not. You know, when the horses are naughty or they won't go on the bit or you can't get a clean flying change, all of those aspects of riding, you think you see somebody else do it and say, well, why can't I do it? You can do it. It's just going to take a little bit more time, and maybe you need to, you know, sit on a schoolmaster for a little bit, like Lindsay and Megan said. If you're immersed in it and in a good program and around people that could possibly give you the opportunity one day to, you know, sit on a horse and ride a really nice pirouette or a line of changes, it will help motivate you as well.
That's a really good point, because it is sometimes very up and down. So that
yeah, and it's very, you know, it's sometimes emotional. And I remember being, you know, on a 20-meter circle for an hour trying to get my horse on the bit, and you know, nobody else really sees that. Everybody forgets, okay, now you see me in the ring doing well, but it took me years and years. Ulbrich used to have me on a lunge line trying to sit the trot. You know, it's tough, but you can do it.
It's not necessarily that you're going to be in the ring right away either. You know, you have to wait it out. And
that's right.
For example, too, I think Megan, I don't know if you remember, I'm sure you do, but Megan and I didn't make the young rider team one year. I think we were maybe 5th and 6th.
I think that was the year. Yeah.
That was the year you were on the team.
Yeah.
Megan and I were grooming for you guys. And we were sharing a hotel room as the groom. So we were eating any opportunity. Just because we didn't make the team, you know, didn't mean that we weren't going to want to be there and experience it and see what Young Riders was about. And, you know, you've got to really, every opportunity that you get, even if it's not riding a horse, just being there is a learning experience. So I think that's really important.
Yeah. And I would also add to that I think good coaching, like, you know, all three of us have had great opportunities that we have created for ourselves. Like, I think that we've really set ourselves up for success that way. And I think that is, you know, maybe overshadowed for some, you know, potential riders who, you know, who could really better from amazing coaching. So it's yeah, the influencers you have in your life, I think, you know, pay off. So,
and they have to be positive people.
Exactly.
To encourage positive learning.
Exactly. I remember growing up, you know, dressage, and for you guys too, it wasn't, you know, it's not the biggest sport in the world. And sort of maybe against the grain when you're younger. There's not a lot of kids doing dressage. So, you know, my mom sort of went against the grain and spent a lot of time with me and with other top professionals to really make sure that I had good help from the beginning. So to relearn things is more difficult than picking it up correctly from the beginning. So that would be my advice to other riders.
Yeah, good coaching. We also have now the next question from Melody. She wants to thank everybody for letting her have a question. Are 10s real, or is it just a dream for us? When did you get your first 10, and what was it for, and what did you do?
So for me, 10s are definitely real, but very rare, in my case anyways. I don't know about you guys, but
yeah.
To what I remember showing all in for the first time in Florida at the Palm Beach Derby, first level, getting 82%. And I got a 10 on my 20-meter circle in first level. And I thought that was amazing. I also received a 10 in a national Grand Prix for a halt ringback, which I was pretty proud about too. Any 10 you get at any level, celebrate, because they're very rare.
But practice for a 10, always.
Yeah.
You always practice for 10s.
Any other comments about 10s?
I remember my first 10. It was when I was pretty little, so I don't think I really realized how big of a deal it was. But it was for the halt at the center line, halt salute.
That's a pretty tough to get
Nice,
10 on
yeah.
center line.
Nice. And Lindsay, do you have more to add?
I don't think so. I've never gotten a 10, so I'm still waiting for the 10.
All right.
We're always practicing for a 10, you know. We're always working hard at home in the training to do our very best in there, and to get a 10, yeah, that proves it. So keep working.
Yeah, and I think people have to realize that judges also do want to give out 10s. They're not wanting to hold them back, I think, in general.
Well, sometimes we say, why don't they give us higher scores?
Right, that's true. But I think in general, they do, everybody starts down center line with a 10, and then it goes from there.
Yeah.
Goes down very quickly.
Potentially. So we have the next question from Leah and Sheila. What do you look for when buying a horse for dressage with a Grand Prix goal in mind? And what is the process for finding a horse?
So when I'm looking for a horse, which I'm sure a lot of you have heard, you know, you're always looking at the 3 gaits, so that the walk is good 4-beat walk, good reach in the shoulder. The walk is really important because in the Grand Prix especially, there's a lot of points coming in the walk tour. Trot is also important. I wouldn't say as important as the walk and the canter, because you can really make the trot with good training, good basics. But when I'm personally looking for a Grand Prix horse, I want a really strong hind leg. I want good suspension, uphill tendency, good elasticity. Conformation is very important. I think that you've got an uphill horse. That's for sure something that helps you going into the Grand Prix. And of course, character is very, very important. You need a willing horse. And I think it's definitely difficult sometimes when you're searching for horses and, you know, you're given 2 days to really get to know that horse. And then, you know, you have to make an offer or buy it. That is difficult. So my advice would be, you know, that you really do your research, you know, the horse, you go online, you look up its show record, you take it off property if possible when you're trying it. Sometimes that is not a possibility, but you take it outside, you ride it in different rings. I mean, you really have to go through your checklist and make sure that all of those boxes are checked, because no matter what, buying a new horse, it's always a little bit of a risk and an unknown.
I'm gonna elaborate a little bit on your comment about the mind, because the character is for me one of the most important things. You know, people say I look for a good mind, but what do you really mean by that? And for me, it's the feeling like, you know, you feel them thinking about you, which I think is really important in being able to build their trust and to work with them in the long term. And then, yeah, like what Lindsay said, you know, their gaits are really important. And, you know, for me, I look for more the mechanic of the gait, maybe more than, say, if they're a fancy mover, you know, just sort of how they articulate, and maybe they don't have the biggest stride, but they are powerful, because I think with good training, then you can develop that a little bit. And like what Lindsay said too, with the walk is, you know, that's probably the biggest naturally gifted gait they have to have. Yeah.
I think Lindsay and Megan pretty nailed it on this one. Everything that they said for sure is important about finding the next Grand Prix horse. They said everything.
Would you say it's a very difficult task to find one?
Yes, I would, for sure. I think it's very hard. And you know, when you're gifted with a horse, you know, that has great gaits and has a great mind, you're always looking for the next best. And sometimes that takes a long time to find. And I think you have to be very patient. And, you know, everybody is looking for the same thing. A lot of people are looking for the same thing, right? And we all want a horse with, you know, great gaits, a great mind, beautiful horse. But, you know, I think it just takes time to find, and you have to be patient. And I think it's also important that you work with somebody in Europe or in America or wherever you are that you trust. I think trust is a huge factor on finding that next horse, because of course they're all very expensive and it's a lot of investment for people, and we all want that horse to work out. Sometimes that's not the case, and that's okay. But ideally, I think, you know, having eyes on the ground everywhere is going to help you possibly find another one, not just, you know, be kind of one mindseted on that.
Right. The next question is from Christy. Many top equestrians have a string of horses to draw upon, jumpers, dressage, etc. What are some of the horses that we look forward to showing Grand Prix in future?
For me at the moment, I only have All In. I'm looking at buying a few young horses to train. So for me, I'm in the shopping stage right now, trying to find, you know, my next top horse. And it's been a little bit of a challenge due to COVID and everything, but that's okay. When things start to reopen again, I'll be headed to Europe and looking for my next horse.
So I'm very lucky to have a couple of great supporters behind me. I have 3 horses at the moment that I'm hoping will come up the levels to do Grand Prix or Prix St. George. The first one is Tula Marit, and he is owned by Lisa Appa. He's 8 years old. We bought him in November, I believe, 2019. He's by Totalis, and I haven't shown him yet. I'm really still just getting to know him, which takes time, but he's showing a lot of talent for the Grand Prix, and I'm super excited to bring him up. The next horse is Santero. He's owned by Enterprise Farm, Melissa Schiff. He's doing Prix St. George. I did a little bit with him in Florida, but he's he's a big horse, and it's definitely been a struggle with him to get him up the levels. He's 18 hands. And you know, when you have a bigger horse, you have to take your time, and you have to really make sure that you don't push them too much, because there's a lot of horse you're working with there, and it's hard on them. So I would say that he's been a bit of a challenge to get there, but I really think that he has the talent to go far, and I'm looking forward to bringing him up as well. And then Chloe Gazzarelli, who owned my Pan Am horse Floratina, she owns a 7-year-old that I'm training now, who it's another mare, and she's amazing. She's got an incredible work ethic, great hind leg, and I'm looking forward to bringing her up as well. But it's a journey, so you never know. Those are my hopes and dreams.
I too am very fortunate to have Dressage Equestrian supporting me, and they have had, I've been working with their horses for a number of years coming along. So the one that's closest to Grand Prix at the moment is Denver, who is 11. I've been working with him now for 5 years. He's very exciting. The next one is 8 years old. His name is Dressage. He's also, you know, I'm playing with a little bit the Grand Prix stuff. So he's also, like Lindsay said, he's a bigger horse. So he's super talented, but I am taking my time with him. And then we have a 6-year-old Felix, who is a Foundation De Niro. He's a smaller guy, but super fun to work with, really willing, and really funny character. And then we have a 5-year-old who is also, I'm really excited about. I hope to do some of the young horse classes with him when things start to open up.
Great. It's nice to have a string of horses and, you know, many possibilities in the future. The next question, describe the relationship you have with your horse or horses. Tell us about your horse's strengths, weaknesses, and character. Who would like to start?
I can go. Well, All In is a very big horse, which everybody probably knows. He, you know, I think that is his strength and his weakness all at the same time, because he goes into the ring with such I feel a very positive and the presence is always there. He always trots around the ring like, look at me. The weaker part about that is to get him through a Grand Prix can sometimes be a little bit challenging because of his size. You know, we want horses to be really supple, and he is supple, but at the same time, when he's a little bit fresh, he does get very hot quickly, which is a great thing for Grand Prix. But when he decides to do that, plus his size sometimes can be a little bit of a challenge. His strength again is also his character. He has an incredible character. Every day, I've owned him since he was 5 years old. He wants to come out and please me and work. And that part of training him has been such a joy. He will just try and try and try. Also, his extended trot is pretty amazing. That is definitely a strong point for him as well. Also, extended cannery is very, very big gait. So training that is also very fun. His character sometimes can be a little quirky. He used to be terrified of music. I thought, how am I ever going to get through a freestyle? We would just turn on music in the barn and he would not enjoy it at all. Thank God he's over that. So when they go to turn on the freestyle music, I always feel him say like, are you ready for this? You better hang on, we're going. So that part, to get through a Grand Prix freestyle, I love that aspect of him, because he just says, hold on for the ride, basically. So he, him and I have a very special bond. We've traveled the world together. We've been to many competitions in Europe, North America. I know exactly when he's not feeling 100%. I think he knows when I'm maybe not having the best day. I know when he, I think it's very important at the top of the sport to know when your horse, needs to see a vet or needs to see massage therapist or chiropractor. That all makes you succeed. And having a partnership that I have with him, I know him inside and out, and I think he knows me inside and out as well. Sometimes I ask myself if I'm ever going to have a partnership with another horse like I have with him. I walk into the barn and I say his name and he comes right out looking at me. I almost feel like he's my first child, and he's like a dog. He follows me around the barn. It's a very, very special bond I have with him.
Talk a bit about Sebastian. So I've been riding Sebastian for 3 years now. When I came to work for Enterprise Farm, he was doing like pre-St. George Inter 1 level very, very successfully. And then I got to put the Grand Prix on him, which was exciting to say the least. The thing about Sebastian is he is very, very smart, and he has a lot of his own opinions. So he's probably taught me the most of any horse, because I really had to kind of find a way with him. He's very honest with me. When he doesn't like something, he tells me right away. So just learning, how much to push, how much not to push, that's definitely been important in our relationship. But he really, I would say his strength is his weakness, his strong character. I know that when I go in the ring with him, like on a Friday night at Global, for instance, he wants to put on a show, and he really anticipates that. So when I'm warming up, if he feels my nerves a little bit before going in, he can start to act up, and his adrenaline will take over, and we will have some moments in the warm up where I'm like, oh, I don't know if I can really get in the ring and do this. But he always goes in, he always performs, and it's definitely been a road. And I think what Brittany said, just knowing your horse and knowing if he's not feeling right one day, or paying attention to the little things, their legs before you get on, if there's a little bit more swelling or if something's not right, that's really important, because that can affect your ride, that can affect training. And that horse has taught me so much about management. And it's one thing to train at home, but it's a whole other education taking your horse to a show, because they're nervous. Like I said, they get their adrenaline going. You have to know whether you're going to ride them in the morning a little bit, calm them down to go into the ring. And those are all things that it takes time and takes years of practice with that partner to really understand them. So I feel like now after 3 years, I'm just starting to get there with him, and I can't wait to get back in the show ring, because I felt the last year with him was really a learning curve for us, for sure.
Yeah, well said. Well said. I feel the same way.
I think Megan and I have been in the warm up together, like,
Yeah, you hit the Grand Prix, and then it's almost like you have a whole new horse to learn almost. Besides what you know about them already a little bit, but making sure that the performance is there. And people, for sure have expectations, but staying humble and staying, with your horse, listening to them, I think, gets you the farthest in the long run. For Zodiac, that definitely applies. He's similar to both of your horses. He's very sensitive, which is a good and a bad thing. So just knowing him inside and out, really is important. But he's an amazing worker. He loves to work. So for me, my job with him is just to keep building up his confidence. Because if he's the type of horse that if he does make a mistake, he's very quick to kind of shut down. So with him, I've really had to stay positive, sort of no matter what. So you're different riders for different horses, and that's the fun of it.
It really is, as much as we have an individual sport, it almost becomes, well, a team sport, except one of the team members actually doesn't speak the language. The next question is from Shannon. What visualization and coping techniques do you use to deal with nerves before and during competitions?
I can answer that one. I think I'm pretty fortunate in the fact that I don't really get very nervous. But what has really helped me since I was really young, and I definitely credit my mom for this, is she would play the Jane Savoy Psycho-Cybernetics tapes. And that just basically taught me how to really sort of control my mind and prepare mentally for, for competition. So before every test, at every show, I sit down and can sort of, what they say, get in the zone, and basically get extra practice riding without riding. So that's sort of my biggest secret in preparing. Like, the more prepared I feel, the less nervous I get. So yeah, I would say that really helps.
I agree with Megan. I think being prepared helps so much with nerves, especially at a show. Working well with, if you have a groom, with your groom and your horse's schedule and what your horse is doing that day before competition or the week before, and what medication they're getting, or just all the little things when they're being shod. All those things have to add up, and that gives you confidence going to a show that your management is 100%. Talking about visualization, for me, I have to sit at the ring that I'm going to be competing in, and I really run the test in my mind at least 3 times before I show. So I think in my head exactly, okay, my horse is probably going to do this here, so I'm going to have to manage this way. I'm going to have to ride my corners this way. And I just try to really get that in my head. And I do that probably an hour to 2 hours out of competition, like before I go into the ring. And then I always like to take an hour in the barn to just have for myself. I put music on and really focus and be with my horse. And that definitely helps with nerves for me.
Brittany, do you have more to add? But you just have to be, I think you're muted.
Sorry, my baby was crying, so I
right.
I muted. For me, I'm a little bit similar to Lindsay. I really need to visualize as well at the ring that I'm going to be competing in. Not just doing the test in my head, going over every movement, how I need to prepare all in for each movement. That for me is very, very important. Also, I go back to my videos where I've had a very, very good test and rewatch that and try to visualize what I did in the previous test. That also helps me. And 2, to kind of pump me up if I go and I watch Isabel or Charlotte have an incredible test. That kind of gets my adrenaline going, and I want to try to do my best. I'm very competitive, which I'm sure Lindsay and Megan are too. So each time I go out, I want to try to beat my previous score or do something a little bit better. And, like Lindsay said too, having a team behind you that you can be less stressed about, that aspect of it is extremely important. And I also take an hour before for myself to spend some time with All In and, you know, just kind of relax and get in the zone.
That's actually a good segue to our next question, which is give us some insight into what motivates you and what has been your biggest challenge. Yeah. So if
that's
anybody else,
what motivates me anyways. For me, you know, watching videos and seeing what the best in the world are doing, and, you know, try to go after that, because that's what I feel, that's what makes me better. I would say the challenges for me, I would say maybe this year was a little bit different because I was a new mother. I had a baby, I had a lot of students, I had the pressure of Tokyo. So to be honest, I really wasn't sure how I was going to cope with all of that stress, new stress, not a bad stress, just a new stress. So I was fortunate to have, you know, my mom and my mother-in-law to take care of my baby, to help me with that challenge. And so that did take a lot of stress off me. But I would say just dealing and organizing students, baby, horse, all of that was probably this year my biggest challenge, but I got through it.
For me, what motivates me, yeah, of course, watching the top riders. That's a huge motivation. I'm always doing that. I'm trying to stay as current as I can, you know, going when I'm in Wellington, you know, watching the best riders. We're very lucky to have such a great amount of really top riders there that you can watch and learn from. And I really think you can learn something from everybody. Another thing really that motivates me is just, we work so hard at home to really do well in the show ring. That's the last piece of the puzzle, really. So when you're putting in so many hours at home, you know, you can't get the flying change, or your PF isn't working today, or the ones aren't happening for the last 2 weeks, you know, all of those struggles that you go through at home. That's when you do well in the ring and you get a taste of doing well and seeing all of your hard work pay off. That is some serious motivation for me. Definitely.
Yeah, I would have to agree with you with that one. For me, it really does start at home. Just seeing even the daily progress, the small things happening for me is really, really exciting. Yeah, it makes me so proud of them and want to support them. And you can kind of start to see things develop in new movements, or the way they're going, or, you know, how proud they are of themselves. It just sort of is like a cycle that just keeps building on itself. So for me, yeah, it's of course, top riders are really inspirational, and I do watch a lot of other people riding, but daily it's the horses I have at home that are, I would say, my biggest motivation, and seeing them develop.
Through this webinar series, we've had a lot of questions due to COVID, and the next one is also from Louine. How are the riders maintaining their focus and goal setting / training with no shows this season? Who would like to start?
I can start that one. I think as athletes, we have to be adaptable. And for me, I really do enjoy the training. So I actually am quite enjoying just focusing on the training for now.
Yeah, I would have to agree with Megan. You know, at first I was kind of, I'll be honest, I thought, how am I going to keep my horse fit now? You know, what sort of things am I going to do to make him not peak at this moment, not knowing when to peak him again? Of course, that's that's something, again, a new speed bump along the road that you have to figure out. Because there's so many unknowns, I really just decided that I'm going to keep riding. I'm going to keep training. I'm going to do different things. Maybe do more hill work or cavalettis or just anything like that mixes up the training, because now's the opportunity to do that. But at the same time, your horse, we have to be ready as athletes, like Megan said, to come out at any time, really. And Olympics is still the goal. So I think keeping your horse fit is very important. And also just, enjoying the time at home to train and learn new things, and maybe work with your other horses that have been on the back burner a little bit because you've been campaigning so hard with the one or the two horses. So that's been really nice to just spend that time and get to know the others as well.
Yeah, for me, I have to agree with Megan and Lindsay. Training has been, it's actually a little bit nice to stay home for a little bit and not be running from competition to competition. And maybe, we now have time to fix, if you want to make the piaffe a little bit better, or you want to, if there's certain movements that you're having some issues with, to really, start from the basics, and you have time to fix it, not sometimes always just putting a Band-Aid over it because you have to run to the next horse show. That's one thing that I've been working on with my students a little bit, to really get down to, what are the real problems that we're having in the training, or what's the horse's weakness or the strength, and really, taking the time to really kind of fix some things to, make them shine when the show's, hopefully we'll be able to show next year. That's what we're all hoping for. And train hard.
So in a way, have all three of you found it to be useful in some ways to really then focus on the training?
I think you have to make the best of every situation.
Okay.
And I think that for me, I'm hoping I'm doing that. We'll see.
Okay,
me too.
fair
was it hard, packing up from Florida right away, and kind of a little bit frantic, and coming back, and all three of us, our horses were going so well, and of course we were all on our way to Tokyo, and it's things change, and as you said, we have to make the best of the situation.
I know we probably touched on this a little bit earlier, but the next question is, what is there about your daily routine that someone else might benefit from, whether in riding or not? Who would like to go?
I can go.
Okay.
I would say goal setting is really sort of a good thing to stay focused on. You can set long-term goals or short-term goals, and then set a routine daily that would help you to get there, and to stay focused and motivated and disciplined. So goal setting is always, I think, a good habit to get into, and no matter what you do.
I'd say also, go.
I think aside from horses, I think it's important, to also look after yourself. And I think fitness is important. We expect the horses to be very fit. So I think for us to do that as well is important in your daily routine. I try to run or, do a workout or anything really. And I think mentally as well, that's important to push yourself in a different way, not only on your horses.
Yes, for me, scheduling too is really important. Have a schedule and try to stick to the schedule. Like Megan said, goals are very important. And also, when you're busy with kids and teaching and work, and instead of, grabbing fast food or grabbing snacks along the way that are maybe not the healthiest option, is to also meal prep and plan your meals, so you always have healthy snacks with you, so you're not stopping at a gas station or McDonald's. at lunchtime. So that's one thing that I started to do over COVID quarantine.
Okay. What is one thing you always do after a good performance?
Celebrate.
Celebrate.
Yeah.
Have a glass of wine with some friends.
Yeah. We're exhausted, so we're just hanging out at home with friends, but
in our breeches.
All right. It's nice to enjoy the moment, huh?
Yes, it is.
Now this goes to the Olympics, hopefully for next year. How do you imagine your experience at the Tokyo Games? Who would like to start?
Okay.
Sorry, go ahead.
I was imagining an incredible experience personally. I was very excited for Tokyo. I was aiming for a personal best there. I think probably we all were. I think, Canada, in my opinion, has a very strong team, great riders, great string of horses. I thought we were all on the way of, really, really succeeding there. And I'm really hoping and praying that next year we can be there safely and show the talent that Canada has.
The only thing that I am going to expect is that it's probably going to be hot. Everything else I'm staying really open-minded about. I think that's sort of important for me in preparing for something, like such a big deal. So yeah, just keep an open mind and sort of take it all in, and then stay focused when it counts. But back to the adaptability. I think that there's always things that come up. And at large team gatherings, you have, so many people come together, especially, it is an individual sport. And then, all of a sudden, sort of everyone is in such close quarters that you really have to be, a unit, and that's different. So just the fact that, you can adapt is a huge attribute in a top athlete.
Lindsay.
Yeah,
I don't
have much to add there. I agree with Megan. The heat, yeah, I was definitely expecting that. I've been fortunate to attend 2 Olympic Games as a groom. So I think that's very helpful for me going forward, competing at major games, because I do know the drill a little bit. Obviously, it's different when you're riding on the team and than being a support staff, but it's similar. And I think knowing the routine is helpful going into that. So that was definitely being at Pan Am's. And, I go into everything, like Megan said, open-minded. So I'm looking for new experiences, and I'm obviously looking to do my very best. And that's the goal.
So speaking of the heat, typically, how much time ahead of time do you have to acclimatize the horses? What's been past experience?
The past experience, so I think we were in Hong Kong for maybe 14 days max to experience that heat. So it's not a ton of time. It may have been less. I honestly can't remember, but it's really not a lot of time. So you have to really know ahead how to prepare for that. And I think EC has, for us, done an amazing job at preparing us with presentations and just getting to know what we need to do for our horses prior and keeping them fit enough for that climate. So that's helpful.
Okay, good. The next question comes from Marlies. What was your best moment in your riding careers?
My best moment, I was at the Pan Am Games in Toronto. I will never forget when I was finished my Pre St. George with all in the home crowd just erupting. It was such an incredible experience. Like, it gives me goosebumps just thinking about it. So I would say, you know, I've had many great successes in my life, but I would say that one was definitely by far the best.
I would say, yeah, winning gold at the Pan Am was incredible. Yeah, it gives me goosebumps talking about it as well. What an experience. We had such an incredible team with Jill, Naima, Tina. We all got along so well. We really had a great time together. And I think that showed in our results as well. You know, we were a team. And for me, the moment I can really remember the most is right before entering the arena, going into the chute for my pre-St. George test. And just, I remember taking a moment and being like, wow, this is really happening. Like, this is really here. And then I had to be like, okay, focus, you're going in the ring. But that, to this day, I will never forget that feeling. And, you know, again, we've all worked really hard for it. So it means so much to just go in there and experience that.
Megan.
I would have to say the Olympics. Just the whole sort of story behind it. You know, it's a Canadian bred horse. Caravello was bred by Jill Irving in Canada. She was, you know, a family horse, basically. Like, we think of her as a member of our family. Yeah, and it obviously was a lifelong dream of mine. So yeah, it's hard to put into words because it does mean so much. But I would have to say, yeah, I realized sort of it hit me after the test. Yeah, and seeing my sister there, and yeah, it was pretty cool.
Very cool. I know we're running out of time. The next question is from Sophie. Speaking technically, Balkenhol stated that aiming for transitions at the letters are the objective, to time everything perfectly, but that this can get in the way of the perfect timing between horse and rider. If it's a choice between a transition at the letter and a transition which is your personal best, how do you decide that in the moment of competition? Do you choose in favor artistry or of the tests? Who would like to start?
I'm gonna go with the better transition. Yeah, I would say that.
I agree with Megan too. I was gonna say.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's about like the harmony between you and your horse. So just because you get to the letter, it doesn't necessarily mean that you're in harmony with the horse, or, you know, that the picture is right. And I think that the feeling and just your natural feeling is more important. There's a lot more that goes into it than just getting to the letter.
And because we started a little bit late because of technical difficulties, we may go then a little longer to answer some of these other questions. The next one is from Katie. The horse I'm riding now is still quite green, and he's a 15-year-old trail horse who hasn't been used the last 10 years. Do you have any tips that'll help him pick up his feet more? He wears shoes, but still seems to drag his feet quite a bit.
I would start to teach him do some cavalettis, trot poles, lots of transitions to teach him to be in self-carriage. But I would say doing a lot of pole work will help your horse pick up his feet a little bit better.
Yeah,
anyone want to add?
that's a great thing.
I'm with Grit on that too, definitely. That's great.
Okay, unanimous. We have, sorry, I'm just trying to see the next question as well, because the more and more they're coming in. The next one is anonymous. As an adult amateur rider who is working on training level, is it an insult to a Grand Prix rider if I ask them for a lesson?
No.
Like, is it a waste of your time, or would you be offended?
No.
Definitely not.
That's probably the most common misconception out there, I would say. I hear so much that you know, that people have to be at a certain level to ride with a Grand Prix rider, but that's absolutely not the truth. You know, like I was saying back at the beginning, good training from the beginning is so important. I really can't stress that enough. So don't be shy and get out there, because I would say that's 90% of the people that we teach, at least me, are beginners, you know, at my clinics. So don't be shy.
I agree with Megan. The clinics I do too, I would say like 85% are beginners, and everybody has to learn, and you're out there trying every day to get better and strive to be better. So send an email out, see who you can get a lesson from, and yeah, we're all open.
Great, because many people do think that, you know, it's above them to get lessons from, or sorry, under difficulties with getting lessons from a Grand Prix rider. The next question is, what is the most important quality when looking for a schoolmaster?
I think it's important, if you're buying a schoolmaster, that of course they have to have been to school. So I think looking at the show record is probably the most important thing. And it doesn't have to be, you know, that the horse is winning or getting 70%, but just that you see that he or she has consistently gone in the ring and proven themselves, because they're the horse that is going to be the most reliable, and they're going to give you the best education.
I would say schoolmasters too also have to be forgiving, because you know the riders are going to make mistakes, and that's okay. But a schoolmaster really should be, you know, if you need to use a little bit more hand at times, or if you kick in the wrong place, the horses should forgive.
Definitely.
Take a joke, as Ashley would say.
Yeah.
I agree with both of you guys.
The next question is from Christy. Do you cross-train? And how does mindset play a part in your success? And do you work with a sports psychologist?
Cross-train personally or for our horses? Personally, then, I guess, right?
She didn't specify.
Oh, okay. How do we cross-train? Well, I went back to my roots this week. I went for an open swim in the lake with my mom and my poodles on the stand-up paddleboard, so that was kind of fun. That would be the thing that I say I'm getting the most out of COVID, is that, you know, we're forced to be a little bit more creative, so it's been kind of fun. EC provides us with some great exercises catered to riders, so that has also been pretty helpful. Yeah, I grew up, I did competitive swimming for almost 10 years, and so I've had sort of a good background in exercises and cross training, so I'm lucky that way.
Yeah.
Anyone else? Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, I try to do as much cross training as time allows. I think it's really important. I love to run. I recently started going on the bike quite a lot, doing just a little bit of weight training, workouts, anything really, just to stay fit. And I think that's also really important for the mind. For me, running is so great mentally. When I was at Pan Am's, I got obviously a little bit nervous before, like a couple of hours before. And I felt I needed to just go for a little bit of a jog to, you know, get myself back in a calmer mindset. And that really helped a lot. So I think having those outlets as an athlete and as a competitor is very important.
And Brittany, do you have more?
I agree with Lindsay and Megan. Cross training is very important also for the brain. I have a spin bike in my garage. I don't always have time to go to the gym, but I go to the garage and go on my bike, do some yoga. Stretching is also very important. That's what I do.
All right. The next question is from Deb. Tips for hitting center line based movements during the test. So sorry, I'll reread it again. Tips for hitting center line for center line based movement during the test.
So like pirouettes and piafs, for example.
I guess maybe even a half pass that starts from center line.
True. Knowing your horse and practicing. Yeah, basically, I guess, like, you know, for example, if you're piafs, if that's sort of the example, then you have to know your horse and how forward it goes. Also based on the day. Yeah, practicing and knowing.
I think practicing is super important, and I think sometimes too, the more center lines you ride, the better. But also you have to watch out because some horses love to anticipate that halt, either at the beginning or the end of the test. So if you feel that your horse is anticipating, then you might want to go a little bit more forward, halt a little bit after X. It's not that in training that you have to halt at X every time, because I know I've been on horses where at the end of the test, they're like, okay, we're going to halt here. And you're not even at X yet. So I think practicing that is important, definitely.
What I see sometimes too, when people are practicing their center lines, is they bend their horse way too much before center line. So they're about turning onto the center line, their horse is overbent, the outside shoulder is completely off center line, and then they're trying to leg yield their way back to center line. So what I would say is when you're practicing your initial turn, try very, very little bend, really straight in the neck. So you can really guide the shoulders up on center line, that the whole body is on center line, not just the head.
Yeah, well said. From Christy, what does your daily training schedule look like?
I train my horse 5 days a week. Usually 2 of those days are lighter days, or cavaletti day or hacking day. My horse right now is on a little bit of a more relaxed schedule than usually because there's no shows. And I teach anywhere between 5 and 10 lessons a day.
Yeah, I'm similar to Britt. Things are different now a little bit, but normally in Florida, for instance, you know, a regular day is 8 to 5 or 8 to 6, depending on if you're at the show, and you know, there's a lot of factors involved. But definitely training all day, whether you're teaching or riding. And then for Sebastian, it depends on the week, really. I really go by how he's feeling. I always do a lighter day after a day off. That's really important. Stretching day. I normally pick, 3 days to really work the horses, whether it's in movements or just practicing basics. and then a cross training day and a day off. So I mix it up depending on how the horses are feeling that week.
I'm very similar to Lindsay and Brittany. 2 of the 5 days a week that I do Zodiac are sort of extracurricular days. So whether it be hacking or lunging or cavalettis, that sort of thing. And then for my daily routine, I do anywhere between 6 and 9 horses, lessons or riding. And I try to do almost every day a little bit of exercises for myself.
Yeah, so it encompasses some longer days, right?
Mm-hmm.
Not always 9 to 5.
No.
The next question is anonymous. What are your top tips for your horse's wellness? Who would like to start?
Top tips for me would be proper diet, making sure that the horse, you have a very good relationship with your vet, because for success, you need a vet on your side. Also, farrier, very, very important. Your horse doesn't have, the proper shoes on, or the angles aren't right, the horse won't be feeling right. It will affect, the tendons in the legs. So for me, the diet, vet, farrier, proper grooming, proper love, it should get you somewhere.
I think too, I agree 100% with Brittany. Those are all extremely important things. Also just, making sure that your horse really gets out as much as possible.
Oh, yeah.
And is moving as much as possible. You don't want to have your horse sitting in the stall for half a day and then you get on it and you work it really hard and its muscles aren't warm, its joints aren't warm. That's when injuries start to happen. So I think getting your horse on turnout before you ride, or hand walk, or graze, whatever's suitable for your horse. But that, for me, I see a big change when my horses are out and they're moving as much as possible.
I would agree with you guys about all of those things. For me, one of the most important things is, my groom, Evelyn. I credit her a lot. They all spend, probably the most amount of time with the horse for sure. And they're going to notice things first. And to notice things as soon as they happen is always critical. So, grooms and vets and farriers, the whole team. But diet for sure makes a big difference.
Okay, and the person just wanted to say that she's happy to hear that turnout was prioritized. And does
Turnout's
anyone?
huge.
Yeah, does anyone turn out in groups?
Huge. I don't.
I don't. But I had one horse who needed to be outside a lot more than any of my other horses for a couple of reasons. He had a harder time sleeping in his stall. He would only sleep outside. So I had to find an alternative for him, and that was being turned out with another horse. So I think it's a huge risk for us to turn out our Grand Prix horses with other horses. So many things can go wrong. I mean, they can be kicked. As much as we would love to be able to do that, it is a huge risk. But I think turning out your horses beside other horses is great for them, and letting them socialize that way. And, if you have another horse that's younger, I'm not opposed either to letting them go and be with another horse, but it's risky for sure.
Yeah.
Okay. And Megan,
I think socializing is really healthy for their mental state. It's nice to have barns that they can sort of touch each other and
see their neighbor too.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
All right, unfortunately, we're out of time. I would like a big thank you to Brittany, Lindsay, and Megan for their support in offering this session and your time. And also wish you all the best, all three of you, on your road to Tokyo. And I would like to thank the equestrian team of Christine, Celine, and I believe Anna is also behind the scenes, and James to help today with the webinar. And of course, a thank you to all the audience who participated and some great questions. This webinar has been recorded and will be posted on the Equestrian Canada website. And I wish you all a good evening and continue to stay safe.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.